a slight leak in the radiator on this car, but now that it's been parked in one spot for a while, looks like it's leaking pretty good. So ordered a new radiator. It's coming in soon, and we're gonna have to do a radiator swap. Yeah, there's fluid all along the bottom, slowly dripping down, and this mount has cracked at one time. I tried to repair it. I think it's the old Ford beam axle. I did have a stiffer spring in here, so the shock from the road cracked the radiator. Probably got this leak started. Anyway, I've got a Posey's softer spring now, so hopefully the new radiator will hold up good. But I got 8 good years out of this radiator, about 18,000 miles on it. And we'll get another aluminum one coming in. So that's another project to start working on. Oh, and the radiator I'm getting comes with a shroud and the fan all mounted. I don't know if I'm going to use the shroud. I never had a problem with overheating. The shroud is kind of I think shiny aluminum, too shiny for this car, so we'll see how it looks. Should be here in a day or two. Well, surprise, surprise. I expected the radiator to come in today, Wednesday, and for some reason right before bed I said, let me check my email, and sure enough there was an email that said, you have a package delivered. Went out in the driveway and there sat a big box. Sure, I'm glad I looked at that email. This would have sat out there all night and maybe disappeared. So let's open this up and see what we got. '32 Ford radiator. Looks pretty good so far. This is the one that comes with the shroud and the fan. I'm gonna pull it out of the box and have a look. Pretty nice looking radiator. Got some real sharp corners on it. We got a box and parts over here. Well, we come with all kinds of connectors, relay, fan relay, temperature sensor. Got the whole works here. Okay. Well, what I had in the car is working, so these may be my spare parts in case the other ones fail. Okay, time to start taking off the old one. Yeah, you can see it's getting pretty messed up down here at the bottom. Of course, we got the bugs. And the cracked mount over here. So we got to continue taking this off the car. Get the hose loose. Now down at the bottom, originally I had a 302 in here, which had the lower hose on the driver's side. When I put the 289 in, the lower hose comes out of the passenger side, so I had to extend it across to that side of the radiator. My new radiator has the lower hose connecting right here, so I'm going to have to alter my hose setup on the bottom. Top is okay. And we got to work on the mounting, radiator shell mounting, fan mounting. A little bit of work. Okay, I got the upper hose and the lower hose loose. And we're still just pouring out fluid at the bottom here. Yeah, this radiator was getting pretty rough. Okay, the old radiator's out of there, and while that's gone, I can do a little cleanup. All these areas on the front of the motor that I couldn't get to. Maybe a little repaint on the cross member. Of course, I refinished my cross member, cleaned up the front end of the motor, but the biggest problem is my lower radiator hose outlet runs very close to my belt. I might have to remake my alternator bracket so the alternator sits up higher, bringing the belt up at an angle so the hose will clear. Up in the front, they've got these side scoops. The other radiator did not have those. But as I lower the radiator shell, it won't go down far enough. I'm probably going to have to shave some of this away to clear that. So, always little changes have to be made. Well, in order for this bottom hose to clear the belt, I had to take the alternator bracket off make an extension, bolt it back up here, bring the alternator up at this angle, add my new bracket on here, and get a different size belt. So now everything fits. We're going to clean up this bracket, paint it, get it all mounted, and I might do this alternator in black. I don't know yet. Okay, maybe I've solved the problem with the hose. I moved the alternator up much higher, extended the bracket. Looks like the hose is going to clear the belt. I just need a nice curved piece from here down to here. And I need a bigger belt because this was a spare that is too big. And the original on here was too small. So I gotta look for a belt that'll fit just right. Well, it's been a lot of work getting this new radiator in here. I did want to use this nice new fan and shroud that came with it, but it stands a little too far off the radiator. And with the Ford motor, there's not a whole lot of room between the pulley and the radiator. So I've got my old fan back on here, and you can see that it mounts real close to the radiator. It's not touching it. I built these brackets up here, down here. Anyway, I can still use this fan for a spare. It comes off the shroud and it's the same size as my old black one, so I'll put it away for a spare. If the other one dies, I can always install that one. So now we're still dealing with lining up the radiator so the hood fits with the radiator shells. You see I got a little gap going here. Still has to move back a little bit, and then I drill and mount right here. That holds the hood down, and it also locates the radiator shell. Okay, I think I got all the mounts for the radiator shell lined up, tightened up. Now it's a matter of taking everything back apart. A little bit of painting down in here. Gonna clean up the alternator. I've got the bracket all done for the alternator. That's all painted up. So, and then I got a perfect shaped radiator hose here. I just had to cut the curved section out of a longer piece. Fits right on there. And put it all back together once more. Well, just about done with this radiator. Turned out to be quite a project. First of all, I had to come up with new fan mount locations. Then I had to relocate the alternator, which called for a new belt. Had to come up with a design for the new lower hose. Then there was careful measurement from the firewall to the radiator so that the deuce grill shell maintained 31.5 inches so that the hood would fit properly. Then we had to drill the lower holes for the radiator mount just in the right place for the deuce shell location. These corners of the radiator kind of stuck out and interfered with the shell coming down to the proper location, so I had to locate the shell just right so it wouldn't stick up too high. And then of course we had to locate and drill holes to mount the deuce shell. Anyway, about the only thing that works out is the upper radiator hose didn't have to be replaced. So it's a matter of hooking that up. I got to get my radiator overflow mounted and put the deuce shell back on. It's over there getting cleaned up. And put the hood back in place. Finally got this all done. Everything is in its place. I just have to decide on what colored grill I want to run this year. We got the yellow one, and we're working on this one. Gonna spray a different color on there, not sure what yet. So everything's in place, everything fits. Okay, started putting fluid in, and it turns out we got a leak right around the thermostat flange. I think the thermostat went a little bit out of shape in there and wouldn't allow me to tighten up the bottom section. So now that's got to come all apart, figure out what's going on there. And one thing Ford did, made sure that this thermostat was difficult to get at. Or it could be Edelbrock, because it bolts on an Edelbrock manifold. The lower bolt is behind the water pump. Almost impossible to get at. Finally got that loose. Got the thermostat out. That has to stay right in place. When you put this back into the manifold, I think what happens is it slipped down, so it wasn't sealing up properly. But when you're trying to get this back in place, there's no way to hold this properly. You've got to figure out some way to do that. So I have to hold this thermostat in the housing. So I came up with this piece of wire holding it in place, and once I get it into the engine, then I can cut this wire out of there. Hope that works. Well, I tried to get this chrome plated housing to work once again. It appears as though the special shaped O-ring was probably mashed too much, and it still leaked. So off it came. I had another one on a Ford motor that takes the gasket. So I pulled that off the other motor, went and got a gasket at the Advance Auto, put it together, and that seems to be holding. I got a little seepage going on this lower hose. I think the inlet on the water pump needs to be sanded, smoothed down. So I've got to drain a little more fluid, take this hose off, clean up the port, check the hose on the inside, and hopefully that'll take care of that leak. And then it'll be all done. And I also purchased a inline filter, which is supposed to catch all the garbage that would come out of the motor block before it goes into the radiator. So that's in place. A couple times a year I'll just have to open that up and see how much crud it collected. Anyway, hopefully this is all sealed up. We can call that a project done. And today it went up to 70 degrees in March. I should be out there on the road. But we're still up on blocks. Oh well. April's coming. Okay, it looks like I finally got the leakage stopped. Overnight, not a spot on the paper. I resealed this lower hose, got an extra clamp on it, tightened up the water pump bolts extra tight. It may have been leaking at the gasket. And everything is nice and dry today, so finally we can put this job to bed.